In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, I am live in Eugene, Oregon, where I watched Illinois smack Oregon yesterday. But this episode, we're going to talk about my live scouting. But you know we have to lead off with Ace Bailey erupting for 39 points. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, who happens to be my brother. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are right around the corner, but it is not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets. And that is if your first $5 bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Also, check out the Locked On newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. Your favorite Locked On NBA podcast has a newsletter. Again, LockedOnDaily.com. And if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, it's 2025. It is the perfect time to start your new year by subscribing to the Locked On NBA Big Board YouTube channel. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, of course. But click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop, because we are coming at you 5 days a week. We have multiple. I wanted to use the word opinions, but I don't want that to sound clickbaitish. But we got James, we got Leaf Tulane, we got Richard Stamen, we got Kristen Peak now, who is on the squad. So I'm a little biased, but I think we are your daily source for NBA draft content. All right, let's get this episode started. Like I mentioned, I'm in Eugene, Oregon. I'm here for 2 games. I wanted to see Illinois and Oregon, and then I also wanted to see Oregon and Maryland. They play on Sunday. So that's Kasparas Jakucionis, that's Derek Queen, Will Riley. I mean, to me, it was just a good opportunity to check out multiple potential first-round prospects and also some guys that could be sleepers or Exhibit 10 guys, and there's nothing like live scouting. But we got to talk about Ace Bailey. I get this notification that says Ace Bailey had 39 points. I was like, oh, yeah, that's going to be a fun episode tomorrow. And so anyway, long story short, I end up watching the game. This podcast is coming out a little later than normal because this West Coast time is absolutely brutal. And I needed to watch the game so I can know what I'm talking about. But James is locked and loaded. So I'm going to let James go first. What were your impressions and your thoughts on Ace's big performance?
All right, so I'm already prepared for people in the comments, maybe people who don't comment, that's fine too. But I'm already prepared to be called a hater because I'm not doing backflips over the Ace performance. The Ace performance was great. He shot 16 of 28, 29 from the field.
Yep.
He showed you the shot making. He took and made a lot of tough shots. That is impressive to me, but it's not because that's what he does. It's what you expect from him. It's not. It's almost like you get bored with greatness, right? So that's great. But he had, I believe, 2 drives in the first half where he got to the basket and he sauced up a defender a couple of times. That looks good. That is what was the most impressive thing to me. Again, I'm not hating on the turnaround jumpers. I'm not hating on the crazy pivot, left foot pivot. He plays like a left-handed player, which is strange to me anyway. But the driving to the basket that he did not only last night, he did it against, no disrespect to the future scientists, business leaders, family men that play for Columbia, but he did it against them. And I guess he really started over the Thanksgiving holiday. Maybe it was Christmas. All these holidays get me confused. But he's starting to go to the basket more, which in turns keep the defense honest. Now, he's still not passing the ball. If you're not an Ace Bailey fan, you're always going to bring him. He doesn't pass the ball. I don't consider myself a fan or a hater. I am neutral on the topic, but his shot making is great. His athleticism in transition is really good. There are times where he shows that, like he had a block the other night or last night, excuse me. That was an athletic play. I still want more off the dribble from him, obviously, because again, the two plays that he did make in the first half were great, but then he had a couple plays in the second half where you can tell he can't get to his left hand. Like there's no strength behind his left hand. He shot a crazy shot. But I'm not gonna nitpick. If he is very, very talented, and that scoring display, whether you like him or not, was very impressive.
Yeah, to me it was very, very impressive, and you can look and see that he is getting better as the
Yes.
season goes on. I feel like the handle looks a little bit better. At least this game, I felt like I've seen more offensive creativity.
Let me interrupt you real quick. If nothing else, it's encouraging to see that there is something that you can build upon, right? Because prior to, I guess, 3 games ago, a lot of the scuttlebutt, as some of the people say, was he's Jabari Smith, right? Jabari Smith Jr. showed zero handle, right? Ace shows you that there is a foundation that you could work with. So go ahead.
Yeah, the Jabari Smith stuff was, I just thought that was very, very, very lazy. I mean, yes, Jabari was shooting lights out from three, but he was limited to just two dribbles. And I will say, even when Ace showed a limited ball handling package, it was more than two dribbles. At least he could get to a spot. Jabari was face up, rise, fire. While Ace could be face up, rise, fire, reverse pivot.
Yeah.
He's got more stuff to his game than Jabari. I was impressed with the shot making. This was the Ace Bailey that I've been wanting to see. This was the Ace Bailey where he showed you not only can he make difficult shots, but he got to the rim. The touch around the rim is impressive as far as like soft touch finishes and floaters. I just think once he gets stronger, he's going to be a real legitimate 3-level scorer. Because right now, even on his drives to the rim, they're always not clean drives because he can't handle the physicality. And the Big Ten is physical. I was
Yeah.
watching Will Riley yesterday, who is very thin, and you can see he's having difficulties because some of these guys that are in this conference are 24 years old, 23 years old, 22 years old, which it's going to be the norm. And so, but with Ace, I mean I took notes on just what was impressive. His first bucket, he drove to the rim. Then I noticed that he didn't make the shot, but his second possession, he made a quick decision. It was a quick rip and go pull up. It wasn't
Mhm.
the kind where he gets the ball, stares you down, jab steps, and then pulls up. He did not. I will say he had some of those in this game, but he showed some flashes of making quicker decisions. Then he had like a play where it's like in the mid post, and because he's not strong enough to like actually get in the mid post, so it was kind of like a deep a post that was as far away from the almost at the 3-point line. But he made turnaround, made that. He got fouled, but I was impressed with the ability to face up, rise, the reverse pivot. When he can't turn the corner, he does have a counter. That's one of the things I do like. Like, all right, he knows, like, all right, I'm driving. I can't take the bump. I can't turn the corner, get all the way to the rim. So I have a counter, which is his reverse pivot pull up, which is very difficult to stop. So again, I think once he gets strength, once he's able to initiate contact and finish at the rim, that just, it's going to add another layer to his offensive repertoire. He had one play where he hit the dude with a double crossover
Yeah.
in the first half.
That's the play I was talking about. Like that's the stuff that I want to continue to see. That is what I think is going to, in my opinion, put him back in the top 3 as far as if I don't already have them kind of on the board.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't think
really,
there's anybody that you
huh?
can. I don't know if there's anybody right now that is going to pass him up at number 3.
I think so.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. But no, he had 16 points in the first 11 minutes. Like when I was watching the game, I'm looking at the clock like, dang, did he not score in the second half? Because it looked like he was going to have
Yeah.
30 in the first half. He finished with 19 in the first half. He showed the ability to grab a rebound and go, despite the fact that he's thin. And yes, he's 6'10", but he's averaging 8 rebounds a game. He has some drive and floaters, some pull-up threes. So real quick, and I guess you kind of answered it already, if he has similar performances to this, obviously I don't think he's going to score 39 a bunch of times, but his last 2 games, he's at 24, 39. If he has similar performances like this, do you think, and you can just answer yay or nay, he can be in the number 1 pick discussion?
I say yay. I think I wouldn't rule it out. I would make that pick, but I wouldn't rule it out because my thinking is with all that talent, with the size, with the shooting ability, with the showing you flashes that he can handle the ball, and then you factor in how young he is, organization could be like, you know what, I can mold him into, a future all-star, multiple-time all-star.
All right, up next, we are going to talk about Illinois and Oregon. I was at the game, and I'm going to share my thoughts from live scouting. The NFL playoffs are almost here. They are right around the corner, and it is not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W, and not only can you bet who will win the game, FanDuel also has bets for which player will score a touchdown, how many points will each team score, and so much more. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, second segment. So I mentioned I'm in Eugene, Oregon. I'll be here for the game on Sunday against Maryland to check out Derek Queen. And this game was interesting because Illinois smacked Oregon. I don't remember the final score.
They put up 100 something.
Yes, it was 100, and it could have been more. And Kasparas Jakucionis is the guy that I really wanted to see in person again. I've seen him in person before, but I really wanted to just get a live view of him in person. And in the first half, he got in foul trouble. If I'm not mistaken, he did not score in the first half, but he finished the game with like
16, 6, and 6.
16, 6, and 6. But watching him up close and personal, you see the concerns. Like, all right, he's not blowing by guys off the dribble. He's not exceptionally fast. So you may see that in like a couple possessions where he couldn't get to a spot. But then you look and you're like, he's getting to the rim. And even though he may not have the quickest first step, he may not be an above the rim finisher, he is creating space. And he's knocking down that step back jumper. Like there was a play where he kind of got like an ISO and he just kind of was dancing with the ball, going east and west, east and west, east and west. And all he needed was just a slither of space, step back, knock down a jumper. Rebounding, like he attacks the rebounds. Like he is fighting. Like he doesn't like get rebounds that come to him. Like there's some guards that get the long rebounds. He goes and gets rebounds. I think that if he would have played a full game, where he only played 22 minutes, but I think if he would have played more minutes, he could have had a triple double. The way he gets the rebound, he's tough, really good passer, and the chemistry he has with Ben Humrichous, I think Illinois is going to be really, really tough to stop down the line. I mean, they have 5 new players, and I mean they're good. They're 10-3, but I was very impressed what he did in the second half. Again, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 22 minutes. The rebounding, the passing, the poise. I had a lot of notes that I took in the game. He's active in the passing lanes. He plays off 2 feet. He seeks contact. There was a play where he like was in transition, and you could tell like he didn't have the quick twitch athleticism to like take off and finish in transition. So there are times where he needs to play off 2 feet, and that little like half a second that you need to get it up, I think that's going to be an issue in the NBA. But he's like Luka in a sense, to where Luka doesn't have that either. But he's going to play off 2 feet. And yes, the transition layup may not look good because he's not taking off, but he's going to play off 2 feet, and he's going to make you foul him, and then he's going to get like an and one, as opposed to just taking off and like hammering it home. But he's good. He just gets the job done. Like, you can look at him and point out his flaws if you're being very critical, but at the end of the day, you can say, man, he's just getting the job done. He plays patient. He lets plays develop. And like I said, I think he could have had a triple-double if he played more.
Did his performance, because you're still putting together a big board, correct?
I'm doing a mock. I'll do like a big board 1 month, a mock the next month.
Did his performance sway you to move him up? And where do you have him at right now?
Yeah, he moved up. I think that you can make a strong case and say he's past Yegor.
Yeah.
Yegor had the awesome flashes, but it was against like UC Davis and Central Arkansas or whatever. I mean, I think Jakucionis had like 4 games of 20 points or more, and it would have been extended to 5 if he, wasn't in foul trouble. Yeah, just at the end of the day, you're like, he gets the job done. He's, again, not going to wow you with crazy athleticism. He's not going to have like, the Ace Bailey games where you're just like, man, this guy's a dynamic scorer. He's just kind of do everything from rebounding to passing to making the right plays. I was sitting next to a scout, and Jakucionis had a turnover, and he was like, I think that's the first mistake he's made. And it was like 10 minutes left in the game. He just plays really good basketball, and the turnovers are coming down. So at one point, that was the concern. If you had like a flaw to pick at him, was he was turning the ball over a lot.
I mean, the turnovers are coming down. He had 2 against Oregon last night, but he only played 22 minutes. He had 1 against Chicago State. I mean, no disrespect, but Chicago State is like basically a D2 program. They don't have funding. They're unfortunately just never good. But prior to that game, he had 5 against Missouri. He had 7 against Tennessee. He had 4 against Wisconsin. He had 4 against Northwestern. He still turned the rock over. I would say last night was the first time he didn't turn the rock over. But you could say, well, he only played 22 minutes. I guess if I'm being a hater, if that's what you want to call me.
No, I think that's fair.
With Jakucionis, I just like he's just good at basketball, right?
Yeah.
I have him in my top 10. I don't have him in my top 5.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong. I just can't get behind him as I don't know if he's a franchise point guard, is what I'm saying. And again, my mindset is thinking, again, there's no shame in that, right? But my mindset is thinking, if I'm drafting a point guard and a top 5 in this particular draft, Raf, where you have guys who have all-star, we know 3 guys for sure, possibly 4, have all-star potential, right? I need my point guard, if I'm going to take him at that same range, to have a similar trajectory. And like I see what he does well. I think he's a good passer, but he does turn the ball over. So that kind of is like, he's good. He knows where to make the passes. I do see his limitations as an athlete. I'm 1,000% buying him as a catch and shoot and off the dribble shooter. I just think that in the NBA, I'm going to switch every pick and roll on him and make him beat my big. And I don't know if he has enough to beat my big for me to respect him in that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, he's like the ultimate complementary point guard to me.
I get it. I think he could end up being a guy that you overthink it. I will say this much. I was trying to put together my mock, and I feel like this class has the most boom or bust guys that I can remember. There's a lot of guys in this class that I feel like
Name 3.
I think Jakucionis could be a boom or bust guy. I think he could.
I don't think he's boom or bust. I think he's going to be, I think his ceiling isn't as high, but I think his floor is like 8-year, 10-year career NBA player, which as a player you absolutely would take. But go ahead. You said Jakucionis?
So I think he could be a boom or bust guy. I think Trey Johnson could be a boomer bust guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ace Bailey could be a boomer bust guy. You could say Derek Queen could be a boomer bust guy. You could say Asa Newell could be a boomer bust guy.
Malawouch.
Definitely boomer bust guy. I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of guys that could really, really hit in this class. Jakucionis could end up being, and like, complexion comparison here, he could end up being a poor man's Luka Doncic, where you're like, he's not fast, he's not doing this, and I'm just saying it like when I say poor man's Luka Doncic, I'm just saying cut Luka's
Homeless
production in
man.
half.
I don't get the I don't get the Luka comparison, because Luka is a dynamic scorer in the sense that you can't guard him one-on-one, right? Like his best, he's as good of a passer, playmaker as he is a one-on-one player. Like if you switch a big on him, he's getting cooked. You put a small on him, he's like 250, right? So you can't put a small on him, and he's strong enough to bully more athletic guys. Like that's just like way out of my. I can't put the Luka blessing on anybody because that dude is a one-on-one.
But I'm making a comparison because some of the same doubts that people had about Luka, when you watched him play, you're like, he's not. Nobody thought he was blowing by guys in the NBA, right? Because you say the first step isn't there. He's not finishing above the rim. It's more craft. It's more unique stuff that you can't pinpoint. Like people weren't talking about deceleration and stuff like that until Luka kind of made it like something that you add on your scouting report.
Yeah, but I mean, Kyrie was doing all that stuff too before.
Kyrie was doing it too, but Kyrie's got a first step to where you're like.
But you get blinded by Kyrie being what I think is a great athlete, and you downplay that he was making those same deceleration moves in Cleveland, and you give credit to Luke. But that's a whole nother podcast. Go ahead.
But it was more so Kyrie was so fast, his ability to stop, start. You had to respect the first step, and then the ability for him to stop, pop. I mean, Kyrie has the best feet in the game. With Jakucionis and Luka, it's like you're wondering how are they so productive when athletically they don't look like they should be able to do what they do.
The thing is, it's IQ. It's being able to flat out shoot the basketball. Luka, he had a lot of dribbles, but he was getting to the basket in European basketball. And I don't know, man. It's just something like his 6'7" does not look like Jakucionis is 6'6", if that makes sense.
No, Luka's bigger. But anyway, my point before we take a break is I could see him being half of Luka's production. So if he's half of Luka's production, you're talking about what? 15, 4.5.
You'll take that. Absolutely.
You'll take that.
Yeah.
Or I could see, and again, I'm probably going to get killed for this from a complexion comparison. I could see some Jimmer Fredette, to where Jimmer was dynamic in college. And I remember that first summer league game, they picked him up full court with a little guard, and he was struggling to turn the corner.
His point guard career was over in summer league, but yeah. I won't say so. I'm going to push.
I think is going to be. I think he's
a better ball handler than Jimmer. Yeah.
He's obviously bigger, but like I said, I can see boomer bust. All right, we got up next. We're going to finish talking about Kasparas Jakucionis. We're going to talk about Tre White. All right, let's talk about GameTime, which is my favorite app because I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy, or more. One of my favorite memories was taking my family to a Yankees game around the 2023 NBA draft, and I got my tickets on GameTime. And GameTime has now made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature, GameTime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you do not have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Plus, the app has all-in pricing, which shows you the total cost up front, so you don't get any surprise fees at checkout. And you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last segment. So back to Jakucionis. So what I was saying is I think that he has great potential to be really good but some of the athletic concerns, even though he hasn't had any issues in the college game with him, could be something that could limit his upside and production in the NBA. As far as the turnovers, he's played a lot of minutes. Like, there are games where he's playing 37 minutes, 37, 38 minutes. That's a lot for the college.
Man, I'm not, man. Get out of here, man. That's not an excuse for somebody to be lauded as a high IQ playmaking point guard. He turns the rock over a lot. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I say the same thing about my guy Jeremiah Fears. Like, he turns the rock over a lot. Like, it happens. I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, he plays a lot of minutes. Like, sometimes because he can't turn the corner consistently, in my opinion, he gets caught up in the air. And then when you get caught up in the air, the passing windows get smaller. I mean, it is what it is. I just think that he's going to be good. I don't know how good he's going to be. I think I have Fears ahead of him as far as like the second point guard on the board behind Dylan Harper. But again, if I am in a situation where I need somebody to steady the ship and I already have established guys, like, let's say San Antonio, I think he would work in San Antonio because I'm not going to ask him to do something that I'm not putting any pressure on him that I don't think he can, like, reach a certain level. But if I'm like Brooklyn at 5, I'm not entertaining him at 5 because he's not, to me, a person that I would try to build around, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay. That's fair. All right, I want to switch to Ben Humrichous. I think I'm saying that right. Now, I wrote about him last year. I think it was February 2nd. I had wrote about him on NBABigBoard.com. I believe I was one of the first to really identify him and kind of put him on like different NBA radars because he had some big games. And I wasn't saying it to toot my own horn, but I was interested in seeing him play in person because so far the results at Illinois have been somewhat mixed. The shooting hasn't fully been there. But yesterday, he looked like the player that made me write about him last year. He had 18 points. He honestly looked like Doug McDermott out there. Creighton Doug McDermott. Maybe it's another complexion comparison. Maybe it was the number he was wearing. He didn't have the T-shirt on, but he was 4-7 from 3. It was 7-11 from the floor. He scored from deep. Him and Jakucionis, their pick and pop chemistry was on point, but he also posted up and he had a poster dunk to the point where he came down the lane, attacked the closeout. I mean, emphatic dunk. And there was an Illinois fan sitting by me. He was like, I haven't seen that all year.
That was his second 2-point make in like 6 games, which is crazy. Humrichous, I know he had a buzz at some point, but like the shooting, my issue with him, right? Again, is he a better shooter than what he's shooting now, which is like 35%? I think it went up because of last game. I believe so, but it's almost like in the NBA, you can't just do one thing, right?
I think you can. I think he can, if he can be a pick and pop guy, there's room for him because he's 6'9", but he does have the ability to exploit mismatches. Like Oregon has some smalls on him, and he shows some toughness. Like, hey, get out the way! I got this little guy on me. Took him to the block, posted up. Again, I think he's a player that once Illinois figures it all out, because again, there's 5 new starters. Once they figure it all out and get to clicking, I think he's going to look good.
That's fair. I just, like I said, the brief glimpses that I caught of the game last night when he did bang on homeboy from Oregon, it's like, that's his first 2-point make in 10 games. And I'm like, I get it. You're a specialist. You got the pick and pop game and jump shots come and go, but I couldn't get an offensive rebound. I couldn't get a tip in. I couldn't get a transition like layup. I know, the game is today. You run to the corner for threes, but like, I just feel like once the league figures out that you're not doing anything off the dribble, once we chase you off the line, then it gets really, really hard to stick. And on top of it, like, okay, he made a huge jump from he was D3, I believe.
NAIA, I believe.
NAIA. He made it from NAIA to he was at Evansville, correct?
Yep, yep.
And now he's in the Big Ten. And then you see, like, again, it is not the full season, but you see like this drop in 3-point percentage. Is he that kind of shooter? And again, he has time to clean up his percentages, but like him shooting, he's always going to be open, right? Set a screen, be a corner boy. I get it. But him not shooting a higher clip, we thought he would shoot a higher clip, is what I'm trying to say coming into the season.
But I do think that he is going to draw some interest because he was drawing interest from NBA teams last year. Then it's like right when I wrote about him, I think he had like a nasty ankle sprain and it kind of limited him the rest
But
of
at the same time, like you see Matt Ryan, where did Matt Ryan go to school at?
I think Notre Dame.
He can't stick. And he has a burner. Right?
But he's in that mix. So
he's in that mix, yes. But it's just been hard for him to stick because opportunities and limitations and whatnot.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in that mix. All right, Tre White had a really, really good game. I feel like I've been watching Tre White forever because he was RJ Hampton's teammate in high school. And he's been good this year. He's averaging 10 points. He's shooting 56% from the floor. The 3-point shooting is always going to be somewhat of an issue. I don't know what position he plays. They got him listed at 6'7". For some reason, he doesn't seem 6'7", but he looked really good against Oregon. Kylan Boswell. I think Kylan Boswell is going to be a fringe NBA player because he's so good at just running like the pick and roll. I mean, his whole game is just ball screens. Like he's very advanced and knowledgeable about how to operate out of ball screens. He was 4-5 from 3.
I think he's going to be like Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent? Yeah, Gabe Vincent. I always want to call him Shamar Moore because he looked like Comey from the Madea movie. But like Gabe Vincent, a 3-and-D point guard. That's what I think Kylan Boswell is going to become in the NBA.
Yeah, 6'2", 200.
He's a great defender.
Yeah, he defends. I mean, he shot the ball well against Oregon, but the 3-point shooting is way down.
Yeah,
he's played because he was like 38% last year, 39% as a freshman, but 3-point percentage is way down. But he's rebounding. One of the things I like about Illinois is that they have 2 ball handlers on the floor at all times.
Yeah,
that can initiate the offense. And then Will Riley, he had some flashes, but the game was over. You can see that he's young and the physicality is getting to him.
I think he should come back for a second year, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I get it. Like, you know, he's 6'8", 6'9", he can handle a little bit. But I think another year would be like good for his draft stock, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. He definitely needs to get stronger. To me, I look at it like this. Do you go, even if he goes to the NBA, and let's say a team takes him in the first round, I think he's going to spend the season in the G League. But, you know, money talks, but I would like to see him come back to school. From the Oregon side, player that actually I thought played well, and I think that he is someone that could be a fringe guy that'll probably, you know, turn some heads in the pre-draft process is TJ Bamba. He first caught my attention at Washington State. He had a couple years ago where I want to say he shot like high 30s from 3. And then he transferred to Villanova. He averaged 10 points. That didn't necessarily work out. Ends up going back to the Pacific Northwest. And he's really struggled with his shooting this year. But I was impressed with what I saw from him. He's 6'5". He's 220. He's chiseled. I mean, he's his older prospect at 23 years old. But he made some good reads. Like the passing has gotten better for him this year. He's in a shooting slump. He was playing well until December. Then I think he went through a slump. But I thought that he had some flashes. Jackson Shellstaff for Oregon, I thought he had some flashes of just being like a pest, quick hands, a guy that's just going to be real active. And then Kwame Evans Jr., and I'll end on this, a player that I haven't really been high on. I know Richard Stayman has been really high on him, and I think a lot of people have sold their stock. On paper, he had a good game. He had 11 points. He was perfect from the floor, made all of his threes. You see the flashes of like the size and defense, but he just got to get tougher. Like it was so much more clearer when you watch it in person. that he's just not like tough or physical. But the flashes are there. If he can put it together, then I think that, I don't think you would take him in the first round, but I think that for him, it's just his ceiling is all going to be based on how tough and competitive he is, because he's just really passive. He's just not tough. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Stay tuned. We'll have some episodes for you this weekend, and I will be at Oregon and Maryland. So we're going to talk about James's favorite guy, Derek Queen.
And I'll be at Duke SMU on Saturday, too.
The hottest ticket in Dallas.
Hey.
We are out of here.